I don't want to say toxic, but it was kind of toxic. It feels like I'm starting over at age 40, and it's really, really, really tough. Just mentally tough, I guess. Has your budget changed significantly since returning to the United States? Yes.
Literally, I've never seen a possum this cute, and I've seen some possums.
I didn't want to start crying already this early in the video. Hey there, friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Marissa, and this is A to Z in Life, where we talk about the A to Z of simplifying your way to a life you love. I thought that this week, since we hit 300,000 subscribers, we could do a Q&A together. So I asked you what questions you had for me, and I picked the most common and fun questions, including personal questions, questions about decluttering and minimalism, as well as a few questions related to YouTube and YouTube growth and that sort of thing. So let's dive in with one of the most common questions that I got asked on Instagram and YouTube, which is, how is house hunting going? If I had to sum it up in one word, that word would be bad. I think that my husband and I were a little bit naive, or maybe even delusional, about how easy it would be to find a house here. The housing market is really, really tough right now. Interest rates are really, really high. And so we're not seeing a lot of inventory coming in for us to look at. We came here in August, and now it's been almost 8 months, and we've been looking continuously this entire time, but have only been able to see a dozen or so houses that we were really interested in. Now, things are starting to pick up a little bit because we're hitting the spring market, but that also means that there's a lot of competition. And we actually put our first offer in on a house the other day, and we found out that there were 12 other offers besides us, and we did not win. We actually even offered over the listing price, and we still did not get the house. So that just goes to show you how tough the market is really right now. So if any of you watching this video are also searching for a home right now, I feel you, it's tough. So definitely subscribe if you aren't already subscribed, and I will continue to keep you updated, and keep your fingers crossed for us that we actually find something soon. The next question that I got a lot was, have you gotten settled into your life in the USA? Do you miss Germany? I will say that I'm probably the one who has been struggling the most with this move, which is kind of surprising considering I'm the American and I grew up here my entire life.
Literally, I've never seen a possum this cute, and I've seen some possums.
And I've moved like 20 times in my life, so this should be old news to me, and yet this time really felt different. I didn't want to start crying already this early in the video. I think I know why it's been so hard for me, and that's because ever since I lost my parents and my childhood home and like 8 family members in the 1 year when I was in my early 20s, all I wanted after that time was a home. I wanted to have a home that was my own home, that I felt safe and felt comforted and could raise my family in. And I thought that we had had that when we were in Germany. I thought that we had found a home that we were going to settle into and stay in forever, and we probably would have if circumstances hadn't changed like they had, that my husband hadn't lost his job and some other stuff hadn't happened with my kids and the educational system in Germany that I haven't actually discussed here on this channel before, but I guess I'll open up about a little bit more in this video. That kind of forced our hand, and we had to make the decision, the hard decision, to leave that home behind and move back here. And my husband is doing great, my kids are thriving, but I feel like I'm stuck in a place of very deep grief because I lost that home and that future that I'd been dreaming about for so long. It feels like I'm starting over at age 40, and it's really, really, really tough. Just mentally tough, I guess. Even though I know it was the right decision for my family, I've still been feeling really down and homesick, and that's something that I'm still trying to work through right now. For a while, all I wanted to do was just lay on the couch and feel sorry for myself, usually while mindlessly scrolling on Instagram, looking at other people's perfect homes and perfect lives, which of course made me feel even worse. So lately I've been trying to get myself out of this slump, and so I've been turning back to some of the tried and true methods that have helped me before. Things like getting enough sleep and exercise, waking up earlier and practicing gentle self-care like meditation and saying affirmations. And of course, talking with my therapist, which is why I want to give a big shout out to thank BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. I actually struggle a lot when it comes to opening up to my husband and friends because I don't want to feel like a burden to them. But through BetterHelp, I've been able to connect with a licensed and experienced therapist who is specifically trained to listen and give helpful, unbiased advice. And I also appreciate that BetterHelp is 100% online, because that means I can connect with my therapist at a time that's most convenient to me, whether that's through a phone call, a video chat, or even by messaging them from the comfort of my own home. The sign-up process is super easy, and all you have to do is answer a few simple questions so that BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network, usually within 48 hours. So if you're also going through a tough time or you're just looking for someone to talk to, right now you can go to betterhelp.com/8toZenLife or choose 8toZenLife during the sign-up process to enjoy a special discount on your first month of therapy. And thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so one of the next questions, they asked several questions and asked, are the boys and Mr. Zen talking a lot of German? Yes, my husband continues to talk with the boys in German, and they're also attending German school. Speaking of school, I thought I just answered this last part of the question where they asked, also, do you like what they learn in school here compared to Germany? In my opinion, in Germany, you get a stronger and broader general knowledge foundation. I hope that I don't offend any of my sweet German followers when I say that unfortunately, that was not our experience in the German schools at all. I think this is one of the dangers of just going by what you see in the news, because if you go by what you read online or you see in the news, you would think that German schools are much, much better than schools in the USA. And if you compare literacy rates and academic achievements and all of that, on paper, Germany looks better. I think that schools can vary a lot. Even within the same city, you can have really, really good schools and schools that are not so good. And unfortunately, we were in a school that was very, very not so good. And this was something that we didn't realize until we were neck deep in it. Without going into too much detail, I'll just say that things got progressively worse and worse the longer that we were staying there. And there were just a lot of negative things going on at the school, with the administration and the general environment there, that were making it a really, I don't want to say toxic, but it was kind of toxic situation for our children to be in. So on top of my husband losing his job and not being able to find one in Germany, the school situation was another huge factor that made us decide to make the move back to the USA. And we have had such a phenomenal experience here in the USA. We are in a great school system. Our teachers are amazing and they care. I'm going to cry about it again. They're amazing and they care so much. And it's been so wonderful seeing our children finally being able to catch up and learn things and feel confident and comfortable and safe in their schools, in their classrooms, with their peers, with teachers that care. So that has been so wonderful. And honestly, like I said, that's one of the biggest reasons that we moved back here. I also want to mention that we did try to explore other options, like transferring our children to different schools or international schools. But unfortunately, we were trying for a year and that didn't work out for us. So then at that point, that's when we made the decision to move back to the USA. And we're very, very happy and comfortable with that decision. Again, I don't want to make it seem like all of Germany is just terrible schools, because I'm sure that that's not true. Just like it's true that in the USA, there are good schools and bad schools. And after seeing how well our boys are doing and how much progress they're making, that really just cemented the fact that this was the right decision for us. So after all of that, the next question that we got quite a bit was, do you plan on moving back to Germany? And you might think that after me talking about the school system that we would say we would never move back to Germany, but we actually loved Germany. Aside from our school, which Maybe it was just an our school problem, and we miss it a lot. Like, my husband's entire family is there. All of his sisters, his parents are there, our nieces and nephews, and we really miss being around family quite a bit. And we also just loved being in Berlin. Like, it's a very green city. It's very walkable. There was always something to do. So we do still own our home in Germany, and we're currently renting it out to family. And that allows us to have the flexibility to go back to Germany to visit, hopefully at least once a year. And then we have discussed how we want the boys to continue learning German so that hopefully they can maintain their fluency. And then when they get older and we're looking at college, maybe they have the option of attending college in Germany, which compared to the USA would save a lot of money because college in Germany is free. So right now it's definitely on the table that we might move back to Germany at some point. How are your kids adjusting to being back in the States? I'm curious as to what's been the most challenging for them. My kids have been doing amazing. They really have adjusted well, and they love their new school, and they've been making a ton of friends, which helps a lot. I think definitely missing their old friends in Germany has been the biggest challenge for them, but we've talked with them on FaceTime a little bit since then and tried to keep in touch. And then we also know that we're going to be seeing friends again when we do travel back to Germany. Next up, the question is, has your budget changed significantly since returning to the United States? Yes, I have definitely seen our budget changing in a big way, particularly around groceries. So in order to answer this question, I went and I got all of my old monthly budget sheets from when we were living in Germany, and I was comparing the cost of groceries to what we've been paying here in the USA. And I ran a quick calculation on my phone and figured out that we are paying 50% more for groceries here in the USA than we were back in Germany, which is honestly pretty shocking. However, on the other hand, something that's cheaper here than it was back in Germany is energy costs. So when we were living in Germany, our energy costs were really, really high. And now that we've moved here, it's much, much cheaper. I guess you could say that there are some things that are more expensive here in the USA and some things that are cheaper here in the USA. Okay, the next question that I got was, what are your hobbies and where and how do you store those items? So as far as hobbies, I do swimming, which is something that we've gotten back into since we moved back to the USA, and my boys are taking swimming lessons right now, and then when they're taking swimming lessons, I'm also swimming over to the side to get in a little bit of exercise, and I just love swimming. It's something that I've enjoyed my entire life. And as far as storing our swimming things, it's super, super easy. I have a beach bag that I've had for like 10 years, I guess. And I just keep all of our flip-flops, all of our goggles, all of our swimsuits, and everything else that we need inside that bag. And I just put it inside of our closet. And that's where I store it when we're not using it. When we come home and it's wet, I just lay it out to dry. Once it's dry, I put it back in the bag and put it away. And I also enjoy reading and listening to audiobooks. Audiobooks are typically my preference, and I am subscribed to Audible, which I've talked about before, and I can link below to some books and a free trial of 30 days to Audible if you're interested in something like that. But sometimes there are certain books that when I read the reviews, which I always do before I try a book or an audiobook, sometimes I'll see that people are saying that the voice might be a little bit monotonous or robotic. And in that case, then what I'll do is I'll look and see if it's at the local library. If it's not at the local library and I really, really want to read that book, then I will order it from Amazon. So I actually recently picked up this book called Simplicity Parenting, which I've been wanting to read for a while, but the reviewers were saying that the audiobook was just really, really tough to get through because the speaker was very robotic.
While parents may need software programs to keep track of their kids' activities and schedules, developmental psychologist David Elkind notes that children have lost more than 12 hours of free time a week in the past 2 decades.
And our local library didn't have it, so I had to order it from Amazon. As of right now, I don't own a whole lot of physical copies of books. If I want to keep a physical copy of a book, that's definitely a book that I want to return to over and over again. I even clear out audiobooks that I didn't enjoy from my library frequently. So that's kind of my hobbies and how I store and manage them. You said once you have a sister, how do you keep in touch? My sister lives in Indiana and we keep in touch with FaceTime and through the occasional text, usually memes, I will say. She and my nephew did drive up last year to see us soon after we moved. So that was really, really nice to see her and him because we hadn't seen them for years. So definitely looking forward to seeing my sister and my nephew more often in the future. Are you a plant person? I am a notorious black thumb, which means that I kill every plant that I look at, but I like plants. Like I like looking at plants. I just don't like caring for plants. But I do hope that when we get a house that I'll be able to get some plants in there and keep them alive. Okay, now we're into the decluttering and minimalism questions. What is your minimalist skincare beauty routine? I find myself getting caught up in all the product pushing and must-have multi-step routines all over social media nowadays. Would love to hear from a minimalist perspective. Let me show you what I use for my skincare. This is the face wash that I use. My sister-in-law referred me to it and I've been using it for years since she introduced me to it. This is what I use to moisturize my face and or body after shower, and my husband and I share this and we just keep it in the bathroom. We also use this sometimes on the kids, and it's been good with their eczema because they do tend to get eczema and they have food allergies and some environmental allergies. And this is the stuff that I put on my lips when I want to hydrate those. I don't wear lipstick or anything like that. As far as my makeup routine, I'm actually trying some new makeup today. I don't know if you've noticed, but if you are familiar with what I usually look like in my videos, let me know if you think my makeup looks particularly good today or not so good. I will say that everything that I use comes from the drugstore because I'm not someone who cares a lot about makeup and skincare. And so I want it to be really easy and really on budget. And that's worked out fine for me. Where do I start? I really need to get rid of 90% of the stuff in my house. Don't worry about thinking about how you have to get rid of 90% of your stuff. Instead, just focus on taking the first step towards decluttering. It doesn't matter so much how you get started or where you get started as much as it matters that you just get started. I would say that a great place to start is just with trash, like literally trash that's lying around your house. And then you can also go and check out this video that I'll link up here and down in the comments with 10 tips on how to declutter faster. And I think that will be really helpful with you to get the ball rolling. If a minimalist doesn't declutter regularly, weekly, monthly, how often should one do it? If you've gotten to a point where your house is pretty clutter-free and it's to the point where you don't even need to do it weekly or monthly, then I would say you can just do it as you go. As things, say your clothing or your shoes wear out, get rid of those things as you go. And then also, if you start to again feel anxious and overwhelmed in your house because the clutter is kind of starting, the clutter levels are kind of starting to creep up, then that might be your signal to start decluttering. How to declutter when you're buying a house. Work is a mess with lots of people stressed and taking leave, and I've got my decluttering training wheels on and not in the flow of things yet. How to stay productive when there is so much stress on putting one foot in front of the other is hard. I completely feel you on this. It is very overwhelming. I would say, first of all, try to really have a plan and set goals for yourself as you're going into it. So each decluttering session, when you're short on time, be really crystal clear about what you're trying to accomplish. Like when we were moving from the USA to Germany, we only wanted to take 8 suitcases worth of stuff. So that meant that we were really, really strict with what was allowed to take up space. And even doing that, we still ended up moving things that I eventually decluttered later. So the next tip is just to give yourself grace and be okay with making mistakes. Like you might get rid of something then later regret it. And you might take something that you then later say,
why the heck did I even want to keep this? What was I thinking?
Why didn't I declutter this when I had the chance? And that's okay. Just focus on making progress and not being perfect. I would also say get really, really good about scheduling your decluttering and your packing and the other things that you need to do into your schedule so that you know that when that time of day rolls around every day, you're going to be doing at least a little bit of something to help make progress towards your decluttering and towards the moving process. And then I don't know if you also have any help with this process, but just having an accountability partner or body double, someone to be there to go through things with you or to bounce ideas off of or to talk things through with, that's always super, super helpful. So I hope that these things help. And I think you really know what you need to do. You already said it in your question, which is just focus on putting one foot in front of the other. Just really look at each small step that you need to take in the right direction and focus on getting that thing done in the moment. How to deal. Mother-in-law dumps stuff and says, we must keep it until she passes. That's a hard no from me. Your house should not be storage space, especially not for someone else's stuff that they don't want to deal with. And I would say that this goes beyond just having a mother-in-law problem. And I say that with all the love in my heart, but it seems like maybe your husband needs to step up a little bit more and set a little bit stronger boundaries with your mother-in-law. Depending on how your relationship is with your mother-in-law and how on board your husband is with all of this, if you want to be really, really harsh and strict, you could say you have 30 days to come and get this stuff. Otherwise, it's going to the donation center. Or maybe having your husband have a chat with your mother-in-law if you want to take a little bit more of a gentle step. But I do not think that your mother-in-law should be using your house as a dumping ground for the stuff that she doesn't want to deal with. Maybe buy the book Swedish Death Cleaning for her and see how that goes. How to teach kids about less is more when every advertisement, every cartoon increases their desire for more. I would say a good place to start is by reducing or eliminating their exposure to these kinds of advertisements and programs and cartoons that kind of push consumerism on them. And I know that my kids are not really exposed to advertisements because when we watch things, we watch them generally through streaming services like Netflix. And so they're not being exposed to commercials and advertisements about this product or this new toy. They have almost zero exposure to these kinds of things. And then on top of that, probably the most powerful thing that you can do is to model that same behavior that you're trying to instill in your children yourself. And I know I mentioned this book earlier, but I'll just bring it up again. This book talks about everything from simplifying schedules to your environment to toys. So definitely check it out if you're interested in these topics related to simplicity in parenting. I will make sure to link it as a book, an audiobook, and also a free audiobook trial for you down in the description below. This next question is kind of an interestingly specific one. How do you encourage and teach a 17-year-old son to embrace living simply and minimally before he goes off on his own? I feel I'm super late in the minimalism lifestyle to live by example for him because he plans on moving and living on his own, hopefully not in a van down by the river, but I will support whatever he chooses. I will just want to encourage him to own less and live more. When I give him examples of my simplified wardrobe, he just dismisses the notion. Any advice? So first of all, I think it's interesting that you talked about him living in a van down by the river, because to me, that sounds pretty simple and minimal. That would be really interesting. Maybe he could start a van life YouTube channel. And I just want to point out here that minimalism looks different from everyone, and there are all sorts of interpretations of minimalism and kind of genres of minimalism. You've got luxury minimalists, you've got eco minimalists who want to be sustainable and save the environment. You've got extreme minimalists or nomadic minimalists who maybe can fit all of their belongings into a backpack. And people can be minimal in certain areas, but not necessarily minimalist in other areas. You're right, at this age, he's already pretty set as far as his personality and his likes and dislikes and all of these things. Like, he's ready to soon be out on his own and be independent. So I guess approach it not from the angle that you want to change his mind, but rather from the perspective shift that maybe what are his goals and how could he use simplicity or minimalism to achieve those goals. Next question from my sweet friend Sue from Crafting a Family, who asks, how to keep kitchen countertops clear but remember what you have. I think that if you struggle to remember what you have, you might benefit from having visual organization systems inside of your pantry or your cabinets, whether that's clear bins for like your different kinds of teas, for example, or having vertical shelves inside of your cupboards so that you can stack the bowls in on each other so that you can see everything when you open up the cabinets. And then just get into the habit of when you use something, try to put it back after using it, unless this is something that you're going to be using multiple times a day or at like 5 out of 7 times a week, then maybe you might want to keep it on your countertop. But other than that, when you get something out, get into the habit of putting it away. I will say that I'm a busy mom. I know things can collect on countertops, and clutter attracts clutter. So by the end of the day, if your countertops are a mess, maybe before you go to bed, take the time to do a little reset and just kind of take the time to go through and clear off your countertops and get things away into the cupboards or the pantry or the shelves or wherever they go. Throw the trash in the trash can. And then that way you get to wake up to a kitchen that looks good, to a dining room table that's not a mess, and you're gonna feel a lot better inside. What were the things you said to yourself to let go of the really sentimental stuff? Honestly, my minimalism journey first started as a decluttering journey after I read the book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. And one of the things that she talks about in her book is thanking things before you let them go. And I know that a lot of people think this is cheesy or woo-woo, but for me, it was really helpful and healing, especially like little kids' clothing. I still get so sentimental over my kids' holy pants or old shirts that were like their favorite shirts with their little characters on them that aren't even in donatable condition and just need to be trashed. I still sometimes get a tear in my eye over these things, but I just hold them to my chest and say, thank you so much. See, I'm even getting teary-eyed talking about it right now. And then another thing that has helped me also is having this mindset that I have to detach the memories of my loved ones from the objects that they left behind. And in fact, in one video, I refer to this as the "this is not a pipe" mindset. And you can go and check out this video that I'll link up here about memory boxes and how I decided what to keep and what to let go of, because I think that this is a really, really helpful filter for you to go through these sentimental things and help you decide what to keep and what to let go. All right, and now we are into the YouTube related questions. And first of all, the question that we have is how to get better at videography and video editing. So one of the things I did when I first started on YouTube is I followed some people, not even necessarily minimalist or decluttering YouTubers, but just people who I found interesting or that inspired me. And I started to watch their videos with a critical eye. And I started to try to notice what kinds of things that they were doing that were making their videos really interesting to me. So for example, were they just sitting here and talking to a camera like I am right now? Or were they moving throughout their house and talking to a camera from different angles? Or how did they symbolize that you were talking about something in a past in a video, like say having a flashback and it now looks like you've got a photograph with tape holding the video onto a screen? Or what kinds of sounds are they using when they transition from one scene to another? Maybe something like a swoosh. Or if they have something pop up on screen, what kind of sound are they using? So start watching YouTube videos with a critical eye and then figure out how you can replicate those things in your own videos. This question says, at what number of subscribers did you see the number of subscribers and how long really start to increase? So I think what you're asking here is what point did it feel like it was no longer a struggle and I was starting to gain more and more subscribers. So I would say that the first year that I was on YouTube was really, really tough to get my videos out there. You know, I wasn't getting a lot of views. Nobody really seemed to be interested or watching my videos, but I kept on publishing videos. And I published my first video ever on December 26th, 2019. And then it was almost a year later, that same December, I think I got monetized. I mean, we can look at my analytics and I can even show you how low my views and everything were. I basically was making videos for an entire year, barely getting any views, any subscribers, and almost no money whatsoever. And then after I built up all of that experience, the next year is when things really started to blow up. I found an article from vidIQ that talks about the average amount of videos it takes for YouTubers to hit a certain subscriber threshold. And according to this blog post, it says it takes 151 videos to get from between 1,000 to 10,000 subscribers, 418 videos to get between 10,000 and 100,000 subscribers, and 1,171 videos to get between 100,000 to a million subscribers. So I know that there are outlier channels where they blow up and get a lot of subscribers in a very short amount of time, but that is by far not what the average YouTuber's experience is. Do you have a minimalist approach to social media as a content creator? I definitely think that I have a minimalist approach in many ways to social media. For example, the equipment and the things that I use to shoot my YouTube videos is pretty minimal. Like when we were back living in Germany and I was struggling with the echoes in my home, which is always a struggle for a minimalist content creator. I was like literally using rubber bands and strings to hang blankets behind my camera and my microphone so that they would hopefully cut down on the echoes. My equipment setup is pretty low budget too. I still have the same camera that I bought, I think around 3 years ago when I upgraded. I've only upgraded once, and I will link the camera and the tripod and the microphone setup and the other equipment that I use down in the description box below if you want to check it out. I'm not saying it's the best stuff out there, but I'm saying it works, and it's gotten me to 300,000 subscribers, so must not be too bad. And then I would say I'm also pretty minimalist when it comes to how many of the social media apps that I am active on and engaged on. And I've been surprised by how many minimalist YouTubers are on every single platform. They're on Twitter or X, they're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're on YouTube, they have a blog, they have, I don't know what else. That's 5 right there. That's way too many for me. I am mostly active on YouTube. I have a blog that I've barely touched in a year that honestly I kind of need to get back into. And I was trying to share Instagram videos recently, and then I had to step away from that because life here had just been too busy with house hunting and looking for things in here. So definitely taking a minimalist approach when it comes to social media apps that I engage on. So that's kind of my philosophy on applying minimalism to social media. How do you manage home life and your YouTube business?
Bada bing, bada boom, I'm done. Learn from a professional, kid.
How do you manage home life and your YouTube business? Congratulations on 300K, well deserved. I feel like I'm not doing all that great. Since we moved back to the USA, I'm still figuring out our routines here like I talked about earlier. One thing that I have done and continue to do is wake up earlier, and then I have kind of this morning routine where I'm doing some meditation, some exercise, and then I have some time for things like catching up on maybe courses or education or catching up with work that I didn't finish the day before. And I also have recently hired some help. So I did get a video editor whose name is Evan. I can link him down in the description box below. I found him through my friend Jennifer at the Daily Connoisseur. So she's wonderful, he's wonderful, they're wonderful. And another thing that I try to do is to batch things as much as possible. Like for example, I don't typically put on a full face face of makeup. So when I do put on a full face of makeup, I want to get as much shooting as I can done that day. So I will try to batch all of my shooting together so that I can get all of the footage that I want while I have my makeup on. And then I'll also try to batch things that I have to do around the home or like errands that I have to do so that I can be as efficient as possible with my time. On my music channel, I've been posting once a month, which I don't think is enough to have a channel really grow, but is a good fit for me now. Would you still call a side hustle or a hobby worth it if it adds to your life, even if you can't do it the proper way? If your goal isn't to make money from YouTube or to grow your YouTube channel, I think it's totally okay if you just want to have it as a creative outlet or as a hobby. But if you do want to grow on YouTube, I would say you definitely need to be more consistent and publish more than once a month, unless that one video per month is like really, really high quality. So I know there's some very successful channels that only publish once a month, but then those channels are publishing like documentary level videos. So it really depends on your goals and what you want to accomplish. But I think that there's absolutely no problem in having it as a hobby and not taking it as a side hustle if that is what is most aligned with your life right now. If you were brand new and starting over again, what would you focus on? I would say finding ways to work smarter, not harder, and being more efficient with my time. So like, for example, I talked about how I've learned to batch my shooting and also batch other things that I need to do together, and just creating schedules and systems that help me be as efficient as possible with creating videos for YouTube on top of everything that I need to do as a mom. What do you think has helped your success? I'm not the best in a lot of things, but what I feel that I do bring that's a little bit different is emotions. I know that when I've watched videos about decluttering and minimalism in the past, it can feel just not necessarily so relatable. But I think that the level of emotions and realism and experience that I bring to my videos and to minimalism and decluttering is something that's unique in the minimalism and decluttering YouTube space. So that's my unique strength. I'm sure that you have your own, and it's all about finding what that is.
Hey there, editing Marissa popping in to apologize because at this point my camera ran out of battery. But I did want to answer one last question from another minimalist YouTuber that I recently connected with named Madeline, and she asked me for tips on dealing with negative comments in the minimalism space. But before I answer her question, I just want to point out that the tips I share don't just apply to minimalist YouTubers, but also to all kinds of content creators, because no matter who you are or what you talk about, there's always going to be people who disagree with you, or are just plain rude, or who love to pick fights. And second of all, if you're getting negative comments, that actually might be a good thing. I always joke with my husband that I know a video is doing amazing when I start getting rude comments and trolls. So that's one silver lining to watch out for. Remember, nasty and rude comments say more about the person commenting than they do about you, so don't take their comments to heart. And another thing you can do is create a praise folder or album on your desktop or phone and start collecting nice and positive comments from people to put in there to look at when you're feeling down. I know I get so many kind and wonderful comments from people in support of my work or who say that I've changed their life, and looking at those comments helps me remember who I'm doing this for. I know that a book that really helped me know how to deal with stuff like this was the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, which I can link down below, and you can also check out that and the other self-help books that have changed my life linked to the left of this screen. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you again next week. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.